So I'm currently watching a clip from ESPN's morning show this morning. I think it's First Take, and they're talking about the college football playoff, and how it's going so far. And honestly, you know, I will agree with one thing because I think this is something that we all kind of thought about. This is something we all kind of thought about, when it came to the playoffs and everything. When it came to the bowl season. you know, as we're watching right now, it looks like LSU is going to beat Wisconsin in the Relicrest Bowl. Relicrest Bowl. Liberty is losing to Oregon, 38-6, and Tennessee is shutting out Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. But anyway, like I was saying, and Liberty and Oregon are in the Fiesta Bowl. But like I was saying, one thing that people were talking about, and I do have to agree with them on this, is you want to talk about bad timing when it comes to things. You want to talk about bad timing. The transfer portal and the opting out is probably one of the biggest controversies to come out of the college football and this changing of NILs and that. And I do agree with this one guy on there on the show. I do agree with him that they need to basically get somebody in charge, or at least put a system together, put a new ruling out there that states that as long as you are still playing, as long as the season is still going on, you cannot opt out. You cannot transfer or anything. Or maybe put a ruling out there that says, hey, you're a starter, and they're depending on you to play. So here's what you can do, and maybe give them the option, or not option, but give them the ruling of, hey, you play in the game for at least, the first half, or at least the first quarter. You start the game, you play the first 15 minutes, or the first, I would say, 25 minutes, maybe. And then you could just opt out for the rest of the game. You could just sit on the bench and all that, and there you go, and everybody else can play. I think if they do something like that, that could help. And also, I think basically putting in the ruling of you cannot answer the transfer portal, the TP, if you will, until the bowl season is over, or until the game your team is a part of is done. So, like with Georgia and Florida State, Georgia beating them 63-3. I do have to agree that basically something needs to change, because Florida State had a lot of the players opt out, some of the players go into the transfer portal, and it's like, well, did you even? So you're like, well, does that mean the starters, the people that are dependent on, did they even want to be there? Did they even want to be there and all that and everything? You wonder that. It's like your team is undefeated. You have a chance to prove yourself against one of the more dominant college teams in recent years. Don't you even want to have that opportunity? And yet, apparently, the people that opted out said no, we don't want that opportunity. And why? Because I think, honestly, it was protest. Now, look, I don't agree with Florida State, FSU, being left out of the playoff. I don't. I think they should have been put in, and I think Alabama should have been left out. Or maybe Texas as well. Maybe Alabama or Texas, one of them. But I do agree FSU should have been in. But I will say this: what we saw on on Saturday, I believe. Was it Saturday? Yeah, I think it was that. Yeah, it was Saturday. What we saw there was not just people opting out, and probably coming back to play for FSU next year, but I think what we saw was protest. It was a solidarity of protest of, hey, we didn't want to be in this game. We're not going to play in it because it's not what we wanted. So in return, we'll let our future play in the game and see what they can do. Big mistake, because the coach over on the Georgia side said, hey, look, our players want to be here. We are a unit, and we want to send our seniors out with 50 wins, 50 straight wins. I think that's what it was. And that's what they did. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of what people thought would be a very competitive game, if not one of the most competitive games of the CFP. It came at the expense that their opponent, who was undefeated, their players, their starters, the ones that would have given them that game, given us one of the best games, of the bowl season, it came at the expense of them opting out and saying, "No, we're done. No, we're done. We don't want to be here." Now, some would say it's because of the quarterback that they didn't get selected. And look, I do agree that the whole quarterback being out with an injury, that's a BS deal. Your backup quarterback is very good. He's proven that. So why not just give him that shot? Why not just go out and give him that shot? And unfortunately, they didn't want to because of name recognition. Because the star person that was, their guy was out. So it's like, oh, what's the meaning? What's the reasoning for having him here anyway? Let's just put Alabama. But yeah, I do agree things have to change, and hopefully they will change soon. And I think the best option is to push the transfer portal thing till after, at least the bowl game that the players are in is over. And I think putting in the option of saying, hey, or putting in the ruling, not the option, but the ruling of saying, hey, you play in at least the first 25 minutes of the game, and then you can opt out and let the other people play in your place. I think those are the kind of rulings that should come down. Hold the transfer portal off until, at least the end of the bowl game, if not the bowl season, and then have the starters, basically have the starters put into, basically ordered to, or at least ruled to play in the first 25 minutes of the first half, and then they can opt out for the rest of the game and let the other players play. That's what I think should happen. But what are your thoughts? Do you think a change needs to be made, especially now we're going to the 12-team playoff next year? Let me know. Comment down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.